Frank Turner, who we know and love, who I'm hoping you got to see at the Stanley Hotel, play 4 nights of amazing live music. He wrote the song that is the story of my life with Jim, girl from the record shop. It's Frank Turner on the Colorado Sound.
Look at that shit right there. Damn. I'm a fan of it.
Are you a fan of Orson Welles?
Yeah. You know who Orson Welles? War of the Worlds?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I will say I got in a tiny bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In that I do a feature that I play 5 songs from one year. And within that, I will put together little pieces of history and little montages, short, 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So from the year that the big volcano erupted in Iceland and it caused all the air traffic to go bananas, and I had played a tiny clip of that, 20 seconds during this feature. And I had a woman leave me a voicemail about how she couldn't believe that I could play something like that because she believed it was real. And she was afraid that her friends that were traveling were going to be she thought maybe they were stuck in Iceland and that I was causing panic in the streets, basically.
But you remember the Orson Welles story, right?
So it's easily done.
So obviously it can happen. People can believe the radio still to this day.
It was a 20-second different voice. Maybe she wasn't around when it happened originally, but yes. I didn't realize I could cause such panic, but I did.
Oh, it's easy.
And for those that don't know, Orson Welles was a radio DJ, and he went to proclaim that there was an alien invasion.
Yeah.
And I think people actually killed themselves. There were some reports of someone had committed suicide, but it caused quite a stir.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And at the time, you didn't have TV. It was just radio. Everyone's tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You didn't have the Twitter to go, wait, is this real?
Right.
Is
radio.
Has radio become more political in your mind?
That's a loaded question.
Ooh.
Well, I mean,
I think it depends.
I could redact it, I guess.
Well, if you think in the music world, I hope not.
Mm-hmm.
In the other world, you bet, just like everything else has become that way.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I like the music world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stay
but
out of those other waters.
and you're more independent. So I guess you would have freedom to do what you want, maybe?
We do.
Play what you want.
We do. I feel like we're very fortunate because in a commercial station, you're sort of beholden to music labels and things like that and your relationships with the economic side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't have to answer to that. So that's great. So
How much do you think? Okay, let me ask you this. Being a radio host, DJ, what's the likelihood of you playing the same song 5 times a day?
not going to happen on our station.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So why, okay, one, if you study Hertz, I know the reason behind why they play what they play on the radio 5 to 6 times a day.
Okay.
These songs are produced in so many hertz where they know what it takes for the body to feel a certain way. And the more you play it, the more you like it.
I've not heard this philosophy.
Okay.
I like this.
So if you play something positive and in a different tune or a different hertz, people like it, but they won't like it as much as if it was a little bit negative. Have you heard that?
I have not.
Okay. Now here's me and Donahue had this conversation. And you I think you broke in on the tail end of this. But would you rather hear a song about women's asses bouncing around and cars and money? Or would you rather hear a song about love and frolicking in the wind?
It depends
On what?
on the vibe and the feel, because you could have the first one if you slowed it way down and you had the second one that was more positive and more upbeat. I would go with the upbeat, probably.
Really?
Probably.
Okay, so that means back.
So music versus lyrics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you
Yes.
can love the music,
Yes.
but not so much partake with the
Right.
message.
Correct.
So Marvin Gaye was like a really, profound mind who made it actually sound great.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But if you put it in the hands of some of these artists now,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
I can't help but to feel like we are declining the people
Right.
in a very negative way, very
like
fast.
like a Two Live Crew or Too Short.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's straight pornography. You know what I mean? Well,
For your ears.
For your
For your
ear.
ear.
Yeah. Well, Marvin Gaye was also known as the guy who could sing sex into any open genre, right? Because
And it's
a lot
tastefully.
of his music was derived from lovemaking and
Very white.
Very
white.
and it's very tasteful.
Yeah.
Now it's hard for me to believe the shit they play on this radio 24/7, and I'm gonna go here with it. It's not music anymore.
Right.
It's now a.
It's a sale.
It's now a. I don't know if it's a damn CIA op or what, but it's all about money, and I don't understand how a DJ nowadays consciously can ignore what is being done to the radio station. Because if I surf YouTube and Donahue has sent me some amazing people who will never make the radio, my brother and I will probably, it's a lottery. The odds are stacked against us, And it's like, my biggest question to you is, being independent, are you consciously aware of what you're playing? And do you know it's reaching people, kids, fragile minds? Like, are you consciously aware of what you're putting out to the people?
I do try to be mindful of that because I know if something hits me negatively, even though it may be popular or maybe somebody is pushing that, no, this is a great new artist, I will generally shy away from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to think in those terms. Now, in the day-to-day when you're on the air, I'm probably not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing is because I am on the backside of that as well, I feel like I can influence that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that positivity is important in what you listen to.
Right.
So
Well, and I also think some DJs are they're there for the job. They don't care what message they're putting out to the people. They just see it as a job. You're going to pay me to play this? Fine. I may not like it, but yeah, if the people want to hear material and run wild with it, I don't care. I'm getting paid at the end of the day.
yeah.
But meanwhile, I get his narrative. There's a picture being portrayed when you play this type of music. It degrades women. It's all about chains and rims and cars and status and materials. And that's all that's being played.
It's almost like audio warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at social media, you don't have to fight a war with the U.S. if you're smart. You can be like China or Russia. You can
Infiltrate.
Get an app out there. Have us all not caring about the U.S. anymore. We're all fighting each other. Now I'm playing a bunch of things that don't mean anything on the radio to keep your mind in this stupid light.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can sit on your phone and do whatever you want, say whatever you want, and you can hurt people's feelings. And you can't even watch TV without looking at some drug named whatever, Diamamol or whatever.
Brought to you by
Yeah.
And it gives you 25 different things
that are worse than what it's healing.
Right.
right? And it all seems like it's warfare on the people.
That's why you turn that off.
Exactly.
But
That's my point. So how do DJs? Okay,
But that goes back to the personality. You got those people that just
maybe that's why they have a job,
yeah.
because the people that are in control of that want them there to exactly do that. They know the plan. They know the grand scheme, and the grand scheme is what? Because I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
But you think about like iHeart and you think about these giant corporations that are doing that are Now, I won't go that far as that they are trying to change society, but they are making it homogenous across the country. If you are this kind of a station, you will hear these songs.
Right.
So if you are a country or a hip hop or whatever station in New York, you're probably going to hear the same things in California.
Right. And it's not all stations like Chill Step. You know,
No.
They're just playing electronic music. There's no
Right.
words. It's your
Well,
own
I'm not
interest.
saying they're all state.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know, that's you do have some outlets, but yeah, the majority of it is always like, it seems like it's an agenda.
When you look at award shows and you look at BET, I'm not a fan of BET. I'm not even going to go into why I'm not a fan of it, because I don't want to insult anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. Or the CMA Awards, country music. Country music isn't even country music anymore. I'm not a fan of any of these popular awards because they're not portraying a lot of the real musicians out there that don't get the time or the light to really affect the world. You know, music can really change the scale of things.
Yeah, but when it's controlled,
And I want to ask both of you, this. Do you think there's something nefarious going on with audio warfare or visual warfare or drug warfare?
You know, I look at society as a whole, and, you know, every generation looks at the generation beneath them and says, oh, man, they're messed up, right? I mean, if I was to talk to my grandfather and ask him about my parents' generation, he would talk about the things that were messed up with them, and my parents' generation would look at our generation and be like, oh, man, like there's this huge denigration of society and all these things. And every generation has that narrative of how things are worse than what they knew, right? I will say that in my experience, in my limited time on this planet, I certainly have noticed some things that have changed. But I also see that there's a lot of similarities, a lot of commonalities, the same themes of love, the same things of human connection, the same themes of escape, the same themes of violence. They remain because it's part of the human condition, right? And, you know, you talk about, is there something bigger going on with all that? And I think that there potentially is. I think there is a potential that is real. And I think there's a potential that there are certain people who are guided by whatever forces or whatever that want to push a certain agenda or a certain mindset into the thoughts and minds of people. That makes perfect sense. But what I also find to be true is that there are a lot of very creative people out there that have some amazing things to say, and they use their art to portray it. And it's people like Stacy and her peers, and I really value the work that she does because they seek out some very talented people who will never get big-time airplay on your biggest radio stations in the country because they're not paying those fees. They're not connected to the right people to put out those specific narratives. And, you know, one thing I really value about what Stacy does and what her peers in this industry do, you know, they have a very specific kind of radio that they do. They're not beholden to the major advertisers, right? They're independent. And because of that, they really find artists that have a passion for what they do. And, you know, they're expressing their experience through their music. You know, some of them have some very compelling stories behind their music, and some of them relay some things in life that are much bigger and much more relatable. You know, it's not just about the booties and chains and rims, right? They're talking about real life a lot of times.
Right.
And they do it in a very artistic way. And it's very impactful, a lot of it. And they do a really good job to curate things that are good. And they have a lot of fun with it, right? I mean, it's Stacy's Infinite Playlist 24/7, basically, is how this works, right? And it's super cool because she gets a chance to evaluate the merit of the music that goes on there. And there's some things that'll get on there that she doesn't necessarily like, but it's important. And she makes sure that gets time on there, you know? and she doesn't have to answer to big advertisers or any of that stuff with what she plays. And so that is the value to a lot of what she does. And there's other organizations across the country that do that. They're not beholden to these things. And so there's always the flip side, right?
Yeah.
There's that yin and yang going
And
on.
I'm not trying to be a dictator at all, Donnie.
Yeah,
I'm just saying there has to be a balance of
But-
good and evil here.
But thank God we have outlets like what Stacy's doing.
Yeah.
You
100%.
also have the choice to search out music outside of what they force feed you.
Right.
Like if we didn't have these outlets, what she has, you know, where would we go to find said things?
But if you know the science of hurts,
Right.
I'm not even going to go on it. People, you need to investigate these things yourself.
Yeah.
There's a way to psychologically control people,
Absolutely.
Right.
emotions, mental processes. Are there gatekeepers, Stacy?
I'm sure there are, but I don't feel like we have to answer to any gatekeepers. Now, I would imagine when you're looking at, you know, big labels and that sort of thing, and especially huge stars, I would imagine that they have a whole separate realm. I am so small, I am not in that realm, which is great.
Right. It's where you kind of need to be in order to give other people that space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still fall back to, it's kind of a mind control thing, but we're not mind control. So there's others out there that search for this stuff. And I think the more and more that little satellites like you pop up all over the world, people are going to find out they're going to have more and more variety that fits their narrative and it fits their lifestyle. I, for one, I grew out of the radio when I knew I just got sick and tired of hearing the same old shit over and over.
Yeah, and that's what's so nice with what Stacy does. You know, I had given up on radio for years, and you know, I'm back to listening to the radio all the time. And it's not just because I get to hear her on the air, but because they put out stuff that is nice. There's a
That's
variety.
relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they play everything you can imagine. I mean, you'll hear stuff that has more of a country to them, clear up to, you know, Beastie Boys. Like you'll hear everything in a day. Like it goes all over the place, and you get to hear stuff that's old. You get to hear stuff that's new. I mean, there's some what country? Well, there's bands from Latin America that play. There's bands from Africa that they play. I mean, stuff that you're not going to normally hear. And it is super fun to hear these different artists.
Open yourself up to stuff. Now, ask my 21-year-old version what I agree with this fucking conversation. I probably would.
Nope.
I'll tell you, I'm going to listen to Eazy-E, fuck the police, you know.
We drove around for many shifts together.
Yeah, bumping that. Yeah. So, and I'm sure there are younger youths out there right now that will not even entertain this, and that's where their mindset is. I do believe that the older you get, the more mature your ears and your mind gets, and you start to seek out music that resonates with you.
Right.
I've been opened up to Indian music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been introduced to that from the love of my life. She's like, listen to this.
Yeah.
And then I'll YouTube it and I hear it for the first time and I'll go, well, I never knew about this shit. Where was this hiding?
Yeah.
And why is this guy on the drums for so goddamn long?
Yeah. This has been here forever,
Yeah.
my friend.
Yeah.
He's been playing for 20 minutes and he's not tired.
And so, Stacy, now, I mean, this is evidence that they're presenting here. Why do you have to be the small person? Why is that? Like, how come our society isn't geared to what you do? Like, how come that's not mainstream? Do you have any answers for that? Like, why?
I think because oh boy. I think the masses as a whole, it becomes more homogenous. And so to please the most amount of people, I don't know where this is going. So I think what we do is so niche that you have to be invested in being uncomfortable in a way. So you're hearing stuff that you are not familiar with. And I think that most people are comfortable with what they know. And back to music, and you said, you know, you discovered all this new music. I think music keeps you young. So as long as you still explore, because statistically, people kind of max out in their music listening in their teens and their 20s, and that's kind of where they get stuck.
Right.
And it's why you get older people that say, oh, well, this I don't like, this new stuff. I don't know what it is with this new music. And I think as long as you keep listening and like you said, your ears mature and you are willing to put new things in, that takes time and investment. And I think a lot of people are just sort of, they want to be comfortable and they want to hear what they know. And so the people with all the money, if there are controlling forces, are betting on that.
And here's where the adaptivity, I don't know if that's even a word, but here's where it comes from, how music is just so a part of our day-to-day life. Even before the radios, we had tribal settings and music was just a part of everybody. It's like it went hand in hand.
Yeah,
it dictated everything. Despite your taste or your walk in music, you need it. Despite what we think about it, what others think about it, it's your living soundtrack. It's how I remember, where I was when I was riding my skateboard and I was playing whatever tune. It brings me back to it. Like music can be markers for your soundtrack in your life.
Well, if you think about some of these societies where they want control over the society, music is not allowed.
Right.
And you think about taking away that basic human, in my opinion, necessity.
Exactly. Like air.
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, then didn't Hitler do that? Took away all art and books?
Well, the Cultural Revolution in China.
Right.
Those were, the musicians and the scholars were the first to go.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Anything that portrays an emotion, basically, which is a scary thing, but you guys are, like, I don't know if you guys are consciously knowing, but you guys keep proving that there is some sort of witchcraft at play because we're both identifying that we know what should be and that should be is not.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, Stacy and I have talked about this before. I mean, this concept of, dark forces versus, light forces, good versus evil. It's present in every day, right? And you're going to see it in your music. You're going to see it in your books. You're going to see it in your government. You're going to see it in your interpersonal connections with lots of people. And there's always these things going on in the background. And then you are interfacing with it and having to make decisions with it, right? But music is a universal. Like I said, I'll hear a band from some African country that I would never have known about, but she'll bring it home or she'll play it, and I'll be taken aback by how good it is. It's very different, right? But the message there, the way it makes you feel. Music. When you talk to people about music, it's how it makes you feel.
Right.
You talked about the lyrics, right?
Right.
And the lyrics versus the music. There's songs that I'll hear, I'll be like, man, that's a great song, but the lyrics suck.
Right.
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 They are so degrading. But it's got a great bass line to it. It's got a great
Vibes like
it's awesome. But the lyrics,
and that's where they get you.
right?
They
And
get you on the hurts.
right. And
Well-
that's the thing, right? And so it is a thing. I mean,
It's a thing.
I couldn't tell you that no, that doesn't exist. I don't think that's an accurate statement. But who's behind it and what the motivations are,
We'll never
man,
know.
that's a big.
We'll never
thing,
know.
right?
You know who did a good job at that, Donnie?
What's that?
And I think you're going to remember this just fine. During apartheid in Africa, when Paul Simon brought back that Graceland album, like even Oprah Winfrey was like, this is a sound I've never heard of before. Paul went and gathered up some musicians from Africa and created, to me, the world's best album. And
I will second that.
yes,
Yeah.
to listen to that and go, oh my God, this is what African music sounds like. It's like, it's rich, it's beautiful. Then you put Paul Simon in the equation with his vocalist and his guitar playing, and it takes you to a space like, okay, I never knew this existed, but I am so glad that I found this in my life. It really takes you out of a place of comfort. I think everybody has that place that they're just stuck at. It's just going to take that Paul Simon moment to get them out of their comfort, to go, oh, I can really easily listen to that.
And that's your bridge into other
And
things.
that's how you bridge off.
You just have to have the door cracked. Or maybe it's like what you were saying. Maybe our young selves, maybe we haven't evolved enough on the planet to understand what we're listening to. So we're easily controlled because the older I get, I do find myself now complaining, what are these fucking kids listening to? How are you, like, how does this,
my lawn.
this is not teaching you morals. This is not teaching you how to be better to your wife, how to stop calling women bitches. This is, how does this music better you? It's not bettering you. It's keeping you at this standstill.
I think you're putting too much of your own expectation on independent minds that need to grow and to become where they need to be in the long run.
I just think I'm getting older and everything.
Yeah, because you were that kid, right?
Man.
Yeah, he was that kid, Donnie, and mom would be like, "What are you guys playing? That's not music." And he's like, "Fuck, it's not music."
Wait, you just don't understand because you're too old.
Right. Now all of a sudden, Mr. Epiphany over here, you know.
Oh, so Moms was right.
Yeah. What?
But that was a very small portion in my life.
Well, it's kind of like our video that we just dropped too. If you really pay attention to it, it's connecting the whole world
to music.
Yeah.
to music, which was the reason why we named it Connections.
And
Right, I like that.
here's something you don't ever really hear. The editor just comes out of left field, Donnie.
Yeah.
And she's telling you she's gonna drop on.
It's almost like the voice of God.
Everyone shut up. God is speaking.
Yeah, often I look around and I go,
Wait a minute, where are you at?
"Oh, let's do you were a woman."
And kudos to the editor. My brother and I will write the music piece. Not everybody knows this, but we'll write the music piece, and she comes up with the pictures, and she edits it in a way where it makes sense and tells a profound story based on our thought process. And
And that's one thing I want to tell you guys. And the music you're putting out and the music that I hear from you, it's very different than anything that I would normally have in a playlist. But I love it.
Yeah.
And I love the visuals that you put to it. It tells a story, and it's sometimes the story's a little disturbing, like the one with the robot war against the people and all that. Like we watched that and we're like, wow, this is intense.
Yeah.
But it was also, I don't know, it inspired a lot of different thought and a lot of different emotional response. And it brought about just a whole bunch of different things. And we talked about it ad nauseum about, wow, this is really cool. I wonder what inspired this. And, fortunately I have the ability to call and talk to my brother. Right. But you do a really good job of challenging some perspectives.
you would not believe
The different outcomes.
people
give us.
People see, when you don't put a text up and you let people use their imagination, people came up with the wildest things on what that video meant.
Yeah. That's what that's the fun part with putting up the videos and not really putting a description
Right.
on what we want the video, what we think the video should be, and just let the viewers perceive.
Because we're not perfect by any standards. And the things that I say almost 50% of the time, people, is probably bullshit. But the other 50, go do your homework on.
No, the other 50 is probably bullshit too.
And that's coming straight from the wife's mouth.
Look,
The voice.
The voice of
I don't
God.
argue with God.
Yeah.
So-
And you can't.
We're going to wrap this up. So how we wrap this up is I might ask a couple of random questions. Or he might ask some thought-provoking questions. But let me start with this first, because this is always a hot topic for us. Have you guys ever seen a ghost or Bigfoot, or look up in the sky and see something that challenged your reality?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I'll start with me. No.
Oh,
Really?
well,
You've seen nothing, Stacy?
nothing.
Okay.
I do believe, but I've
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
No. Witnessing, I have not.
Okay.
But
Yeah. So this was about 9 months ago?
Oh, recent.
Yeah. And I don't think I told
You have not.
Yeah. So this summer, we'd taken a trip and we'd come back from the Middle East, and I had walked with Stacy to her place of employment, and I was getting ready to run back home and start a workout. And as I was running, I looked kind of out to the horizon to the west above the foothills. And I look out and I see this shiny object, right? And I look up and all of a sudden it goes sideways on the horizon and it is a big silver disc on the horizon. And it's big, right? And it's sitting there.
Define big, Donnie. Like,
Well, the
give us
thing
some
had to
kinda-
be probably about 5 miles away from where I was.
Okay.
It's my best judge of distance based on, seeing the foothills and being able to look to where I was. Probably about 5 miles away. And it was going horizontally first, and it just looked, I saw the glint of sunlight, and I thought, oh, it must be a plane or something. All of a sudden it turned on its side, and it was a disc. And if I had to guess at the size of the disc, it would likely be just at that distance and the size and everything, it would probably be close to like 100 yards across. I mean, it was good size.
Oh,
right?
wow.
shit.
Yeah, it was big. And it was there and it just was stationary in the sky for a period of time. And then all of a sudden, it kind of turned, flipped. I saw the glint of it and it was gone.
Like gone?
Like in
Like
a
just-
motion or just like a disappear kind of a gone?
No, like it moved and it moved fast enough I couldn't track it, kind of a gone.
Mm.
And I don't know what it was, but I know it was not normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So that was wild.
did your mind just completely shut off and you not want to grab a phone and videotape this, or were you lost in the sauce immediately?
No, I saw it. Well, I didn't have a phone with me, number one.
Okay.
But I want to just take the experience in, honestly, because my personal perspective is that we are certainly not alone in this existence, in this universe. We're not the only intelligent beings out there, and I have yet to meet one, but I know that there's got to be something else out there. It's too big, know. And so I truly think that it's entirely possible that we're just one of many, right? And so seeing that, I just wanted to take the experience in, and being kind of the person that I am, I wanted to make sure what I was seeing was actually what I was seeing, and wanted to look at it, evaluate it, make sure it didn't meet the profile of anything else that I know.
Spoken like a true
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what I really want
I didn't went, no, that was
analytical
definitely
mind of
not
yours.
Here's what I really want to know. Like, this is going to be anytime I interview anybody and they've seen something, this is the number one question that pops into my head. Did you feel threatened, scared, or like this thing was going to attack you in any kind of way? Or were you just neutral on the whole thing? What was your first emotional response?
I was excited, honestly. Like
Really?
for me, I was like, that is awesome. And no, I don't get afraid of anything, really. I mean, because there's nothing really that I fear. I don't fear death. I don't fear any of this. And so, and I'm a long way away from it too, right? I mean, we're talking 5 miles, and I'm a blip on the radar in this thing's perspective, whatever it was, right? And so, no, I was excited, and I was like, oh man, I wish Stace was here and pointed out, and, so everybody would think I'm crazy, but,
Right.
I know what I saw, and it was not anything I've ever seen before. And I clearly recognized that, and I just wanted to take it in and see it, and I was excited, like, that's cool.
I don't think you know or realize how important that is, because this country is hell-bent on making things from not of this planet a scary thing. And the wife and I last night started watching this, I believe it's a series called The 3-Body Problem.
Yeah.
And whenever we watch anything that's based on life that's not from this planet, it's always a fear tactic involved with it.
Right, War of the Worlds.
Right.
Yeah. Mars attacks.
Yeah. Why do you? Why
Independence Day.
Why do you think that is?
And we always got to kill them before they kill us.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Donnie? You didn't even have that remotely creep into your mind.
Well-
You were enthralled. You were captivated by something you've never seen before, and it was amazing.
Yeah, well, because I'm a curious human.
Yeah. Well,
I want to be surprised.
curious
right?
by nature. All humans are curious.
Yeah, and I think the mindset of it's got to be this thing is that it's different. Kill it.
Yeah.
It's that good, redneck perspective.
I was just gonna say it's that goddamn down south kind of perspective.
Kill it,
That
you know?
shit's different, son. Kill it.
Yeah, you know,
Figure it out.
right?
Yeah.
But it is a thing, right? Like you do see that as that's going to be the response, and hey, maybe it is, but maybe it's not.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
who knows?
Right.
We have no clue. People that might have a clue, they're certainly not saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I'm just captivated by it. And I also know that it's far outside my span of control or span of influence. And if they're going to decide they want to throw down, then okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll do what we could do. But
Yeah.
if you're flying on something like that, I bet you
It'd be over before it started.
Going to be much.
Yeah, yeah,
Be over before we
exactly. Your human little toys are not going
Yeah.
to.
I mean, I'll give them hell, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just recently found out both of you guys have can I say this? You have property in a different country.
sure.
Can we name that country?
Doesn't bother.
Okay.
You got full veto power.
Okay. So you guys
We can also monkey bleep it out
we can
too.
keep it out.
Property and blah, blah, blah.
Property and
Yeah. So you guys bought property in Panama.
Yes.
Okay, my wife has been trying to get me out of this country to go live in Costa Rica, and I think today we're really going to talk about future plans.
We're gonna
for
be
retirement.
neighbors.
We're definitely going to probably be neighbors, but
Oh, right before we started recording, I already bought property. Sorry.
I'm sure.
I forgot. Yeah.
I'm sure you did.
It's been going very well.
yeah.
I'll send you all the address. I forgot.
Before I ask you about Panama, we didn't ask. Are you guys religious? Do you have any background in that, or what?
I'll let
Denomination
Stacy
are you?
speak to her experience, and I can certainly share mine.
Mine is sort of your typical. I was raised Episcopalian, and my family wasn't very religious. It was, church maybe on Sundays, on holidays, and then into my adult being, I really took umbrage with organized religion. So I always felt like I had spirituality, but I felt like you couldn't put a name on it, and I found too many conflicts and too many things that were bad about organized religion. And so I sit firmly in the spirituality camp without a label.
Okay.
So
But I mean, does that say you think there's something higher at play, or you're just kind of open to what it is what it is?
I think there's something higher at play. There's way too many things that are unexplained.
Yes.
There's too much magic out there.
Yes. A lot of magic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so I am unwilling to say, oh, well, I know exactly what that is. And so I feel like a lot of organized religion wants to tell you that's what that is, but it's in direct opposition to this religion, and they both think they're right, and they're going to kill each other over it. And I always thought that seemed like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem very
Yeah.
It seems almost opposite of what they believe in.
So you never had like a divine intervention or something push you in a way and you can't explain it. I don't necessarily want to say like a life and death experience, but
Right.
maybe something like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, but it didn't feel like it came from me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many moments of just that sort of recognition of the divine. And I have not had a life and death experience and anything like that. But they're, take in a sunset, take in some piece of nature, and you can't help but be awed by it. And that's where I sit in the universal picture of bigger things.
It's my closing question to you. Well, you just wrapped that up nice and.
What about you,
bundled.
Donnie?
Well, so I come from a pretty deeply rooted Judeo-Christian background growing up. In that realm, we were at church at least twice a week, kind of a thing growing up, and that was just how it was. But I became very intentional in my studies of faith. Probably around high school, I started exploring lots of different religions, looking at the different commonalities, the different trends, the different threads. And then in college, studied, quite a bit of world religion. Then beyond that, furthered my study in theology pretty in depth. All the major religions, some of the less known, having read the Quran, the Torah, the Christian Bible, gone through a lot of the Buddhist philosophy and Hindu texts, and I've read and evaluated all of them. I find there's a lot of common themes in all of them, a lot of very common things. And so, while I grew up in a very staunchly Christian perspective, my understanding of faith in general and the divine is not rooted specifically in a Judeo-Christian perspective. I think through my studies, through my experience, God's God, and we can try to put God in a box, and we can try to create a creator that fits our mold, but that's not where they belong.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you believe in a creator that's omnipresent, completely powerful, in control of everything, I don't dictate what form they take, who they are, and you can't fully understand the nature of that divine source. And I think that spirit is in every living thing on this planet, and it's all interconnected. And so my perspective is that all this silly infighting and stuff that we do to try to prove that our religion's right, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable and not having the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need the answers. I don't have to convince anybody of the answers. It's everybody's individual journey to figure these things out. And like Stacy said, the truth of the divine, I think, is found everywhere you go. You can hear it in the first breath a child takes, just in that moment of them becoming, in the breeze and the sound of the ocean and the waves crashing on the ground and the sunset, you talk about this area in Panama, being immersed in the jungle and that sense of walking on that jungle floor barefoot and hearing the birds and seeing the monkeys and the sloths and the things that are there, the reptiles, everything that's all interconnected and doing things, and being able to pick that fruit from a tree and eat it right there and being a part of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's the divine. That's
Always
creation as it's whole, and you're a part of that. And so coming at that from a place of humility is very comforting to me, because I don't have to have the answers. I don't have to be in control.
Right.
And so I wouldn't say I've thrown away all the things I grew up with, but I've expanded in those thoughts and those experiences. And I think that we can't put the divine in a comfortable box for us, because you can't create a box that fits that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people need that so they can feel okay.
Yep.
And that's all right. That's their deal.
And I always said that too. I was like, if you want to see a reflection of God, why don't you just look in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
Look at everybody around you. Look at your environment. It's truly that. If it created you, this is what you're looking at it. You don't have to search for it. You are it.
Yeah. And I think that spirit dwells within each of us, and we can foster that and make it life enhancing, or we can go a different direction. Yeah. And I think that's that individual choice. That's that free will aspect that is so important. And you have to recognize that, there's a lot of love in this world, and you can choose to embrace that, or you can choose to push back on it.
So going back to Panama real quick, and Matt, you can jump in on this too. But what's it like to detach yourself from the Western civilization and all the technology and just go to your villa in Panama and just be you? No influences constantly bombarding you from all directions. No scrolling of the phone. Just sit there. What's that experience like? So people who don't know how to disconnect, like what are we missing out on? I know my wife tells me all the time, well, she's been telling me for years, we need to get out of this country and detach. We need to go back to simplicity. What's it like? How do you do that?
Go ahead. You start that question.
I have to start.
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. If you don't want to.
What I would say too is that you don't have to leave the country to detach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're way too wired in, and that you can find that simplicity simply by turn your phone off. I think people are so overstimulated that, truly, if you were to just say, okay, no phones in the house for 24 hours, first of all, people would probably lose their minds. But then you would go, oh, what am I feeling? Oh, it's warm or it's cold, instead of this doom scrolling that is
Doom scrolling.
Which I have to admit,
I like that.
Some days I can be I won't even say some days. I can't even recall me spending 24 hours
Without your phone?
without my phone and not scrolling through it just to
See?
see what I've missed.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, because we are not attached really to our phones. We don't do social media, even though I am in the media. We're pretty low tech, I guess. And so it felt really comfortable.
Yeah. Well, and in full transparency, I mean, at our home, we have full internet, and it's faster than the internet that we have in the States.
But
I was totally fine using my phone to take pictures of the beauty around me and
Right.
try not to, be engaged. I mean, certainly I had work interrupting with the job that I currently fill. I mean, there's a lot of outside influence and there's things that, come in that I have to deal with. And so there was some of that there, but I had no problem leaving that alone and swimming in the ocean and just being separate. And it didn't bother me a bit. It was a very peaceful existence, and I look forward to getting back to it.
I got one. I know we got to get out of here. I got a closing question for you, and it'll be for, well, Stacy, you already gave me mine.
perfect.
But,
I'm done here.
Yeah. You're hitting it on all cylinders. She's very efficient with her telepathy process. Didn't know she had that. For my closing, it's always for someone else. But for you and I, for Cop Talk, can you just leave a little bit of something for that officer who's too afraid to reach out?
I think it not just an officer. That's a highlight, but for anybody who's dealing with.
But more so for me, because this is the world that I came from. And I get what you're saying. But there's officers out there right now who don't want to reach out because we've built this fucking box of alpha male. You can't be weak. You have to be strong 24/7. Any advice? And it is applicable to someone else, but
I'm just going to add it in there. That's all I'm saying. It's an additive.
Any words for that particular person?
I think the reality is that the things you're experiencing are real. And if you're truly confident, you're going to recognize that you need help. There's nothing wrong with being weak. And nothing wrong with recognizing things are hard, because you're going to experience hard things, no matter what your walk in life is. And some of these things, are going to be really, really hard. The things you experience, they're not you. They're your experiences. They don't define you. They're not you. They're a circumstance that you're a part of. And recognizing that there is a difference between an experience and you is very important. But if that experience is leaving lasting effects, you need to talk to somebody. And it may just be a friend. It may be a loved one. It may be peers. It may need to be somebody professional. And there's nothing wrong with that. So be comfortable being, in a lot of terms, what people might describe as weak. It's not weak. It's actually a demonstration of strength. And it's a demonstration of courage to be willing to recognize that you need a little bit of support, because we all do. And if you don't do that, you're setting yourself up for a struggle. And so be willing to step outside that comfort zone, be willing to humble yourself a little bit and recognize that you're not alone, and, reach out to people that you can trust, because it's important.
Yeah, mental health is it's a thing I really put past me. Like, it's weak people, But when you go through mental health yourself and you don't talk to someone, it's a very isolating misery, So if you don't want to, and this goes for everybody, if you don't want to seek help, if you have a brother, a mother, a wife, talk to them, and just talk to them. And if you're in that situation and someone's trying to talk to you about their mental health, just listen. Don't add any advice. More times than not, if we just listen to each other, it can cure many things without having to put our own dictation on it and drive some more bullshit in someone else's head. Just have a big ear. My wife is my counselor. So, and that just happened within the last 6 months.
Right.
I've told her more than I've ever told anybody. And the weight off of my shoulders has been immense, you know, and she don't judge me and she walks me through it. And so now I kind of feel like I don't need to go get another counselor because she's there and she's not adding her bullshit in on it or any other bullshit she read. She listens. We figure the problem out together. If that's not helping or I need to go somewhere else, then we'll both say, hey, I don't have the answers. Maybe we should go somewhere else. I've been fortunate enough to have her in my corner, and she's figured out all the problems.
Well, I think it's also important to realize that there is nothing that we're experiencing that hasn't been experienced before.
But by others.
Else,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And a lot of times they wrote it down.
Yep.
And if you're willing to open yourself up and look for answers and look for guidance, you know, you're going to learn about people's successes and their failures. You know, one of my biggest fears when it comes to policing or military members or things like this, the increased rates of suicide and these sorts of things, those permanent choices for a temporary circumstance are really, really hard to swallow. And so I, for one, am very grateful that I have never been down that road, you know, where nothing has seemed that insurmountable. But I've certainly known other people in these career fields that that's the case. And, you know, if you're feeling that way, by all means, go see somebody, get some help, let somebody know you need help. Because that, you know, those deaths are so unnecessary, you know, and there's always a way through it. You just have to be willing to say something, you know, and, you know, that's touched my experience with different people. And it's hard, you know, you look back on it, you think, man, if I'd have only known.
Right.
You know, I had my godson, he took his own life years ago. This was back in 2019. And, you know, I look at that and I think about what a waste of a good young man. You know, he could have done so much more and he was so impactful as a young human, but nobody knew that struggle was there. And, you know, there's always help out there. You just have to open the door to it. And, you know, in those circumstances, everybody else is left trying to figure out, what did we miss? Why didn't they come and talk to us? Why didn't they say anything? What did I do to limit that relationship so they didn't feel comfortable talking about it? And the reality is, it wasn't anything that we could have done different. You know, it's the choices that these individuals you make. But please understand that it doesn't have to be that way. There's always hope. And so, you know, I hope that people that might be struggling with whatever it is would take that step if they're going that far into the rabbit hole. And you may not even know you're there.
Right.
But if those things start popping up, man.
Yeah, they start to surface.
take it
Oh
serious.
boy, oh boy. And no one
that
goes
bubble.
unscathed, Dunny.
No,
Life is
100%.
finicky that way.
That's right.
We're sociable creatures.
Yep.
Everything is solved with a conversation.
Yep.
We're all in it together, and you got to be willing to approach it from a place of humility.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
Donnie, Stacy, it was freaking fabulous to have
Yeah,
you
we
guys
got to
in
do
the
this
studio.
again.
I'm glad you guys stopped in and did the podcast with us. You came out and visited us for the weekend.
I want to do this from your villa in Panama.
Oh, that should be
bring
awesome.
the setup and
Yeah.
shit.
Maybe we
That
could
sounds
study some monkeys abroad.
We're
I
down.
don't know.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe we should study the
Yeah,
monkeys abroad.
Live and close.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Anytime.
All
I'm
right.
just
Thank
thinking
you for
about
having
it. And that's just
Yeah,
it just sounds
no problem.
like
Thank you
fucking
for coming in.
trouble, man. That
Yeah,
just,
it does. Well, we're fascinated with monkeys.
Yeah.
But with that said, thank you for watching this podcast. This is a very special podcast for the family because we're all family here, but it was something that needed to be done and said. Hell, like the channel.
shit. Subscribe
Ring the bell.
if you got a bill.
Ring that biatch.
If you don't, you can pretend like you have one, and the
And maybe
editor
the
will take
editor-
care of that.
Maybe the editor will ring my bell this time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I even want to do this.
No, you shouldn't. We're on Etsy.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't. I don't know why that shit never works for you, Lamar.
I don't know, Marilyn.
We're also on TikTok.
And we're also on Patreon. Thanks for the Patreon members that have donated. It does go a long way. We appreciate the help. It keeps this podcast going.
Thanks for the private donations.
Yes.
That always helps too.
And there's more music on the way. Number one, we reached 1,000 subscribers, and we are so tickled in all the right places.
Very fortunate, Boo Boo.
Thank you for all the subscribers. All the new people that are watching, this is what you're going to get. This is the shit that you signed up for.
Unredacted.
Read the small print.
Mm-hmm.
Not my fault.
Donahue didn't read the small print.
Yeah.
Wait, they signed something?
You know, I tell my loved one over here who's looking at me, sometimes she looks at me and she wonders what kind of shit she got into. And I tell her, you should have read the fucking small print.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wait, what are they signing?
I don't know. It's proverbial verbiage.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Peace out, you guys.
Wait, you didn't even. What? All right. Yeah, whatever. Bye.
Wait, he didn't what, Meryl?
I don't know.
You just can't.
We can't say the Etsy.
We did.
like-
He said all of it.
no, he didn't.
I said Etsy. I think if you go back and you look that, you know,
You didn't say more music
the-
videos.
this wouldn't be the first time.
Marilyn.
This would not be the first time the editor was proven wrong.
Marilyn. Marilyn.
I think you got lost in the sauce. I'm looking at you, even though you're right there, but I'm looking at you.
Peace out, y'all.
Peace.
Whatever.
Yeah, she's giving us shit. All the way. Let's see.
You know I'm gonna edit that out, right?